Hello and welcome to another episode of For the Love of Sports. My name is Michael Rasile. This is the show where we get to talk about sports, we get to talk about business, we get to talk about everything in between. However you're listening, wherever you're listening, you know what to do. Like and subscribe, 5-star review, yada, yada, yada. More importantly, today, my incredible guest, I have Zane Kekoa Schweitzer, I think, right?
Schweitzer.
Schweitzer.
Almost,
Where did the
almost.
A where'd the A
You were
come from?
combining, you were combining Arnold
Yeah,
Schwarzenegger's
there we
name there with
go.
mine. I like it.
You're a big dude, but we'll get to that in a little bit. Zane is an author, speaker, environmentalist. He has a foundation called the Supergrams. He is a 15-time world champion in the surf category, we'll call it. We'll get to dive a little deeper on that one. He's a 5-time master of the ocean, 2-time ultimate waterman. Zane, how you doing today, man?
Doing great, doing great. It's a pleasure to be talking with you today, Michael, and thanks for having me on the show.
Pleasure is all mine. Shout out Andrew and what he's doing over there at the Othello Group. They're doing some great things, and I appreciate him helping me get you on here, Zane. Very excited again. You have so many different things to talk about. Your love of the beach, I'm sure, is a little bit higher than mine, but I really love the beach. Your love of the water is significantly higher than mine because I just kind of like looking at it. I don't actually like being in it. But there's a lot of stuff we get to talk about here. But the first question, Zane, I have for everybody on the For the Love of Sports podcast is, why do you love sports so much?
Oh man, of course, sport is my escape. Everybody talks about how sport can be an escape, but I truly don't know where I would be without sport in my life. I've seen the ocean specifically as my playground, my church, my place of refuge in many ways. And it's open 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And so I've always been high energy. I've always been getting into trouble when I get bored. And so having that ocean always there for me and being able to just immerse myself in its power is something that always makes me feel grounded and also have the ability to innovate and inspire a little bit, pushing the things I love so much, all those different categories of sport on the water.
Yeah, man, I love that. There's a couple things I want to dive deep into there. No pun intended, of course. I'm going to say that a lot. It has nothing to do with the actual water, though. Couple things. I'm curious. What are you escaping from? Like, what? Like, it sounds like you're doing pretty well. You're having a good time on land. Like, what exactly are you running? I mean, maybe not running away. That's not the proper term. But like, what are you escaping from?
Yeah, that's kind of what I was trying to refer to. Is a lot of people mention their escape of something, and for me, it's my church, my playground, my place of refuge, and I don't always need an excuse to escape to my playground, but I always end up feeling better when I leave that environment, and having an opportunity to connect with a natural environment like the mountains or the ocean or whatever it is around you is special. And I think any sport that's so tied into its environment and the ever-changing conditions around it is unique. When I was younger, I played football in elementary school, and I've always loved all kinds of sports. But what's unique about surf sports and any sport on the ocean or in the wind is your course is constantly changing. There's no other ball sport like that where your arena or your course, your competitive field is shifting and changing and constantly challenging you to adapt. And I think that's something that for me is not necessarily an escape, but it's a good challenge to incorporate into my life. And in many ways, it's a teacher, because there's so much lessons in sport on the ocean and in my lifestyle around the ocean that really relate to life in sport. I made a post on Instagram this morning talking about that exactly. And the ocean teaches you the appropriate time to fight and the appropriate time to surrender. And it's always going to win. So if you're choosing to fight against it at the wrong time, you're going to get humbled. And in life, oftentimes it's like that too. You got to know when to fight and you got to know when to surrender. You got to know when to let go and just go with the flow. And so in many ways, I get out of the water feeling more connected and charged to my everyday tasks, my goals, my training routine, of course, is surrounded around the ocean, but it's not just work for me. I go also to, relax and de-stress. And, sometimes I am going to the ocean for an escape. And you're very right. I live a very fortunate life, and I'm grateful to have created a lifestyle around what I love. And, oftentimes I have to kind of laugh and pinch myself, like, is this really my job? And but there is times where being a professional athlete, as I'm sure talking to many, there's times where it gets overwhelming and it gets a little bit stressful in a different way.
Hmm.
And I was talking with my wife about this just yesterday. The security of doing, and I don't want to say normal, but the security of just fitting in rhythm to the normal job and the normal routine, and how it's in many ways less stressful. You don't have to think as much. You just do. You go, you follow the rules, you come back, you get in rhythm, and it's robotic after a while. And when you run your own business, or especially as an athlete, you're constantly challenging yourself to expand, to grow, to innovate, to inspire, and to be able to um, not just keep that momentum steady moving forward, but not lose momentum and burn out in that process, because there's often so much more losses than wins, and there's so much more times of let down in many ways than success when you're a competitor. But you have to learn to live with that, and I think, once again, great life lesson.
No, man, and you said a lot there, and I'm excited to touch upon a couple of these points because I think again they tie in with business, they tie in with being an athlete, and you said one thing in the beginning, the power of the ocean, right? And as you said, like you get humbled, like the ocean lets you know when you win, and the ocean lets you know when you lose. You do not let the ocean know, right? And that's very similar in business, as you said. There's a lot of lessons that you can learn and take over. I guess what are some of those lessons that you've learned either through business or through being in the ocean that you were then able to pull into other pieces of your life that have absolutely helped, and you kind of were able to make those connections one to
Yeah.
one and say, wow, like this is what I learned here and I'm able to use this in other pieces of my life.
There's so many different lessons, and Michael, it's a great question, and it's something I've had a lot of fun sharing these personal experiences uh, through my book Beneath the Surface, and also more recently through my public speaking engagements around topics from each chapter of the book. And a lot of it is really around what you're asking. And one of the greatest lessons of a waterman or a water woman, and I think this can translate well to the life of a businessman, or uh, it's the ability to be present in your environment and to truly read and measure your risks, right? And in many ways, it's not necessarily about mastering your craft. It's about being in the right place at the right time, and being able to anticipate that is the true skill, and kind of a special thing when it comes to a professional ocean athlete, because you're not just mastering your craft. You have to consider the shifts of wind. You have to consider the changes of tide and current. You have to consider the different timing between each wave, the lulls between each wave, or when the ocean is calm. And so, anticipation in chess, in many ways, is, I like to relate it to as well. When you play chess, you're considering your every move, but you also have to, almost in many ways, if not with more effort, consider your opponent's move, and always kind of anticipate the next step. And in surfing, in ocean, any ocean sport, whether you're swimming, whether you're going to the beach with your family, whether you're in a competition for a sport in water, I always remind myself to be present in that environment, to take away as many elements as I can before I throw myself into it. Find a safe place to enter and exit. This is things that I like to call a risk assessment. And just this small practice is so relative in any activity we do in life. You take that short moment to be present, to be mindful, to go through your checklist, to weigh your risks so that you could, you know, gamble with them appropriately. And oftentimes I'm thinking about if the route of least resistance rather than the closest distance, or efficiency often overpowers strength and power, and so you have to really consider taking that route of least effort. And in many ways, that's why you look at a good athlete in any sport, but especially in surfing, and you're like, wow, it just looks like they're just not even trying. It just looks so easy. How are they just, they're not even paddling and they're getting right into that wave? Or and that's just repetition. That's, being able to have your motor function subconscious and your conscious focused where it should be, which is anticipating your next move and timing and positioning. And oftentimes I think that's what separates, a good businessman, a good leader, a good player to a great one. It's not just one that knows what they're doing and knows their place and knows where everyone else's place is, but they know how to deal with when shit hits the fan. They know how to react in times of panic. They know how to, they simply know that with every action, there's a reaction, and I
Absolutely.
think, I could keep going on that type of stuff, but keeping it simple is often easier.
Keeping it simple is often easier, but we don't like to be too easy on this show. Where's the fun in that? I want to make people think. I want to get people to learn, and you're totally right. Like it's as anybody, right? Like outside of business, outside of athlete, just as a person, it's best to be efficient, 100%. But I'm curious, why do you think, right? Like what you're saying isn't like let's be honest, it's not rocket science. To know what you're supposed to do next it should be inherent, right? As you were saying though, the interesting part is not just knowing what you're supposed to do next, it's knowing what your opponent's supposed to do next. And then as you said, the ocean, what are the surroundings? What are the elements that are doing next? Why
Yeah,
do you think it's so difficult for people to get into that moment? Because you say these things and that's going to
let's
connect, but
let's
not
draw a
all
picture.
people.
Let's draw a little mental picture for
Let's
everyone.
do it. First time. Never
So
done that on
let's
the show.
let's talk about the power of the ocean. Let's take 2 deep breaths. Now, with every second breath we breathe, that oxygen is generated from our oceans. That's powerful, right? Now, let's think of another sense of power in the ocean. Imagine swimming there with your family and looking behind you to the horizon and seeing a 50-foot wave cresting to the sky. You can't see the horizon anymore, and it's about to break right in front of you. Your legs get chilly and tingly. Your blood starts to rush to your important organs instinctually. Your mind starts to go into fight, flight, whatever it is, right? These are those critical moments that, as a big wave surfer or a waterman or a water woman, we push ourselves closer to that edge of comfort so that our deepest instinctual drives can be pushed to the side and that we can actually be calm and be cool and let go in this time of most panic, of fear, something that could be terrifying. Literally, you can't breathe underwater. You're getting thrashed around. You have all this weight, more than 50 feet. I mean, when we're surfing Jaws in the winter, the wave I won the world championship for biggest wave of the year, ridden for 2021-22 season, was measured at 52 feet. I've wiped out on waves that big, and it's, oftentimes it passes for me almost like I try and let my subconscious take control in many ways, and that's a part of these sports. When you hear athletes say, I was so I was so rhythm, I was so in flow, I was super fluid out there. I just felt like I was flowing. It was slow motion. You hear athletes talk about that stuff, and it truly is a sensation that happens, when you're being pushed and there's so much going on and you have repetition in that moment, and you can actually trust your subconscious efforts more than your conscious ones, because oftentimes our conscious efforts are ones that gonna put us in a safe place but might not really be where we want to be. When we're
Yeah.
trying to throw ourselves over the ledge of a 50-foot wave, we're not putting ourselves in a safe place. We're
Yeah.
warriors. You got to put your head down. You got to focus on breathing through your nose. and the whole time you're staying calm, keeping the heart rate low, and ready to get held down. And I think that's something that's a lot of people who aren't familiar with the ocean sometimes could fear. It could think, oh my god, that sounds terrible. I appreciate breathing. I don't want to hold my breath. And um anyway, I get going. I'm getting all
I
stoked
love
on
it.
big wave surfing. We got winter season ending right now.
Dude, we got a lot of stuff going on. I'm excited. This has been, 15 minutes of fun so far for me. Hopefully you're having a good time too. Again, got Zane here with me talking about just about everything at this point. And I want to go back to a point that you just made, right? So it's that subconscious. So almost I guess if correct me if I'm wrong, but that sounds kind of like muscle memory to me. That sounds like something that you've done
Yes.
over and over again. You know your body knows what you're supposed to do before your mind does.
Yes.
How long does it take to get to that point in something like what you do or in life too, right? Like how long does it take for you personally or professionally or people that you know, people that you help to get to the point of actually being able to push aside their conscience and say, you know what? Okay. Like I know again, my conscience is supposed to keep me safe. My conscience is saying, "Hey man, don't go on that 50-foot wave. What are you doing?" But you know you're going to go. So it doesn't really matter. So just get all that
Yeah.
negativity, get that fear out of the way. How long did it take you to be able to actually compartmentalize and say, "This is these thoughts are not helping me right now. Let's push them out of the way and just let my body take over and let that flow, let that muscle memory kick in."
Well, first things that come to mind is trial and error. You eventually start to
That is
realize
that's
that
some trial and error. I'm
yeah,
sorry. That's some trial and error right
you're
there.
getting held underwater and you're fighting. You'd realize you're burning oxygen and it's not helping. You're still getting held down. And the smart thing to do is just relax, let go, minimize all efforts. Even mental thought burns oxygen. So you have to cool your conscious mind, but also your physical actions. And so, I mean, trial and error is a huge one. But one of my favorite books is Outliers. I'm sure a lot of your listeners have heard of it. It's a very popular book for sport. They say 10,000 hours is where you start to get repetitive and really subconscious with your motor function, not having to put as much effort into actually controlling the craft or the activity. And it just happens. And then you have time for other important things like reading the conditions around you, making those micro adjustments, you know. Um, and so, but recently I've been thinking about this actually because I've been taking on a new sport again, and you have to always challenge yourself. And I believe that with every sport that comes my way that I have an opportunity to practice, it's going to train my mind and body and spirit in different ways. And hopefully that it will only come hand in hand for an action that I'm truly putting my focus in. And right now, my focus is in big wave surfing and being on the big wave tour. And so everything I do is even right, just being at home doing work is focusing on breath, focusing on being fully functional with my breath, my full lung capacity, and just that every day is going to help you for a breath hold. A lot of us breathe shallow throughout the day. But I tell you what, once you start holding your breath and feeling those urges of oxygen deprivation, you're going to appreciate a full breath of air. And so, you know, um, there's there's so much you could learn from picking up different things. You hear that quote. I'm trying to think of the quote. I don't know the exact words, but a jack of many of trades is a master of none. But that's the most popular part of it. It's not the whole quote. The I'm not probably slaughtering this, but a jack of many trades is a master of none. Yet one that yet one that you got to look it up. Okay,
All right.
it's
Homework
a
for
good.
everybody out there. Look it
Yeah,
up. I like that,
I'm
Zane.
having a brain fart here, but
You're
yet
good.
one that is I don't know. Anyway,
I think I know what you're trying to
brain
say, and
fart here.
you're doing great, man. And I think that's important, right? Like, just it's good to try other things, right? Like, I think that's kind of important. But understanding and as you said, like That is so true. People breathe so shallow.
Yeah.
I've practiced mindfulness and meditation every single day for the last like 3 years. And that's one thing I always focus on, getting those super deep breaths in. Cause that's what you need. Like, you need a lot of that oxygen. You need to let it get deep. You need to let it get through you and get going. Now, I'm never going to be on a 50-foot wave unless something terrible has gone wrong. So hopefully I'll never need to use it in that situation.
Unless you're on vacation with me, maybe we could push your limits a little bit.
I don't know,
But hey,
man.
if you want to, all it takes is repetition. All it takes
That's
is putting the
true.
time in. All it takes is, being able to slowly take on the those practice and those motor functions. And you're probably going to fail a lot in the beginning, but that trial and error, and also, just repetition will helps to make everything more comfortable. What was once a place you never want to be in, that's terrifying, becomes a place you just attracted to and gravitate towards.
You can't wait to get back. It sounds like you're much further into the. Hey, maybe you know what? If I ever find myself with you in Hawaii, I assume that's where you live, right? I think that's what the internet told me.
Maui, Hawaii, the island of Maui.
Perfect.
Yeah.
So yeah, if I ever find myself there, I'll hit you up. And you'd be so kind to take my wife and I out, I think that would be absolutely fantastic. So I
We'll
think that
start the
is.
small ones.
Yeah, that's fine too. That's totally fine too. And so I'm kind of curious, right? You talk about that failure, that repetition. What is it? You seem to be, I guess, like you're almost attracted to that aspect of it, as you said. You're always attracted to that
Yeah.
challenge. You're finding something new.
Mhm.
What is it about the challenge that you're always looking for, right? You're in the ocean, which we already talked about, the power of the ocean, the ever changing nature. You're never going to see the same wave twice.
Mhm.
What is it about that thirst for just the challenge in life, right? You do so many other things outside of surfing. Where does that come from, and why do you believe that that's something that's really a part of you at this point?
Well, I've always really looked up to my dad and all of his friends in our community. And my dad's a world champion windsurfer and a multifaceted athlete, total badass in everything he picks up. Great motocross rider, fisherman, surfer, windsurfer, and all of his friends that were coming in and out of the house at a young age for me were all the world's best watermen in all these different sports, whether it was Laird Hamilton for big wave surfing, Robbie Nash with windsurfing, and all these other big names. And I just wanted to be like them and keep up with them, and I think having that positive influence around me definitely made me want to just kind of gravitate towards things that are challenging and things that are uncomfortable. I look at my dad just on cloud nine going out to surf giant waves, and watching him from a young kid, it was something I always knew I was going to do. I never once thought it was going to be something scary in many ways. I just knew that I wanted to do that. And most people, when you talk about that, just think it's insane. And it's like, it's all perspective, right? And I think having that mentality from a young kid, I mean, my nickname growing up was Insane Zane, and, and Zaniac the Maniac. And I think that was before I was even, fully developed. And so I think I grew into that too, just wanting to always be up for something exciting, something challenging, the biggest wave, the longer jump, yeah, and I think even though I have a focus in, say, big wave surfing currently, and all of my training and mental and physical efforts are going towards that, I still am picking up other things. And I believe that this question of how long does it take to become an expert at something and to have it just automatic without thinking about it, it also depends on your conscious output, right? If you think about something all damn day and you only get to do it, for 1-2 hours a day, you're going to progress a hell of a lot quicker than the guy who's doing it 3 hours a day, but not thinking about it at all. I wake up my wife in the middle of the night, and she's telling me, Zane, you're dreaming about hydrofoiling again. You're dreaming about you're laughing in your dreams, talking about big waves. And I'm like, damn, I'm training in my sleep too.
There you
My
go.
conscious is still working. And that's just what happens when you are putting the hammer down at something from sun up till sun down. your conscious mind and the recovery of your body and your mind is changing towards that activity and towards that conscious effort. And so, there's sheer power and will and hours put into something, but there's also, I believe, spirit put into something, and that heart and conscious effort, and it's always a balance. If there's anything surfing and ocean sports have taught me is keeping balance. And there's always a balance of mental, physical, and spiritual training when it comes to achieving a goal, in a specific category.
Yeah, and I mean, you were talking a little earlier about how, you're focusing on big wave surfing every hour of the day by focusing on your breath, right? It's not the actual act of doing it. It's everything that's around it that you could focus on, just typing on your laptop, just driving in your car, all these things. If you're putting that mental energy into it, and as you said, actually focusing on the output that's coming
Mhm,
from it, that is where you're going to gain even more than the next guy. Because yeah, he
mhm.
might be on the waves a little bit longer, but he's not focusing on all these things 100% of the time throughout the day, even apparently in his sleep.
Weirdo, huh?
Hey, I mean, I don't know, man. You're doing pretty well. You're happy, right? That's the only thing I wish for people. I just
Oh
want you to be
man,
happy. So who cares?
if success is happiness, I'm a winner for
There you
sure.
go, man. Do what you love. You'll never work a day in your life. That's one of my favorite
Isn't
quotes, of
that
course.
true? Isn't that true?
So a couple other things, obviously, I want to get to. Zane, this has been just absolutely fantastic so far. So 15-time world champion of
Oh, let me correct
multiple.
you there.
Yeah,
15-time world championship event winner. So I don't have 15 world championship titles, but I've won 15 world championship events, the
that
single events.
sounds like the same thing to me.
So, like, I've been corrected by this in the past. That's why I feel the urge to correct
Yeah,
you.
please. I want to make sure I got my information
Saying the
right.
wrong thing on public live. So, in surfing and a lot of ocean sports, we have a world tour that is accumulation of multiple events that gives at the end of the year the world champion title, right?
Okay. Okay.
So when I say I've won 15 world championship events, I've won 15 single events.
Okay. I do
Doesn't
understand.
mean that accumulation of events throughout the single year brought me the world championship title.
Mhm.
Anyway,
All right.
but
I
I'm
appreciate
very
that.
proud of that. Thank you for mentioning it.
As you
And
should, dude. I think that's incredible. The thing, you're also two-time ultimate waterman. I don't know if those are single events or just in general, but the thing that got me when I received that one sheeter, 5-time master of the ocean. Now, does the ocean know that you're its master? Because I don't think the ocean would be too happy about that,
hell no,
right?
I would not be happy about that. I don't go wearing that crown.
I was gonna say we don't go in the ocean and say, "Hey, ocean, I'm your master right now."
That's a
Of course,
funny
being a little
funny
facetious.
name for an event for
I
sure.
do think it's awesome. What is master? Because it just sounds incredible. It's off the cuff.
It
It rolls
is.
off the tongue. It sounds
It's
amazing.
one of my favorite events on
What's
my schedule.
what's master of the ocean, and how have you done it 5 times?
Yeah, the Master of the Ocean is a multi-sport competition between surfing, stand-up paddling, windsurfing, and kite surfing. So two wind sports and two surf sports. And every day you're competing in all four of these sports. And so in the morning, this event takes place in Dominican Republic at a location where the trade winds blow very consistently, and so it's unique in the sense that we could do four sports in one day at a location like this. And so in the morning, we'll do the surf sports before the wind picks up, both stand-up paddle surfing and shortboard surfing. And then in the afternoon, as the wind picks up, we compete in kite surfing and windsurfing. And it's exciting because with the wind sports, it's not just riding waves, it's three-dimensional in a sense. We're doing flips, we're doing jumps, we're spinning, doing all these aerial maneuvers, yet also being judged and scored by how we ride the wave, how critical the wave is, the combination of maneuvers, the versatility of the ride, and the overall style. So there's all this judging criteria that goes into winning a surf sport event or a wind sport event. And in many ways, it's not like Usain Bolt, you cross the line first, you win. In many ways, it's there's so much that goes to play in it, and that's often a great frustration, but also what keeps people really attracted to it, you know. You have people that cater to the judging criteria of different events, and you're a smart competitor. Bravo if you could adapt your style to do so, you know, and some people can't. And that's why you hear the term, a free athlete. We also have that in surfing. Are you a free surfer, or are you a professional competitive surfer? People could still be successful in our sport and not compete. And often it's the people who can't necessarily handle that pressure of competition, or not necessarily not handle it, but just don't want to waste their time and effort and stress for it, right? That's not really something that happens too much in basketball. We're like, oh no, this is a great basketball player. He's like one of the best, and he's not playing for a team. He's not playing in a
Mhm.
competition. You know what I mean?
That's funny. That's a great analogy. I never would have thought about it like that. That's so true though. Playing for specifically the competition aspect of it. Well, either way, that event sounds absolutely incredible, right? Again, 5-time master of the ocean. Don't tell the ocean. But I am curious, how how do we talked about 10,000 hours, right? Malcolm Gladwell, Outliers, that book's amazing. One of my favorites, hands
Oh yeah.
down. Incredible book. Malcolm Gladwell in general, just a cool dude. Sounds like he's got a lot of fun stuff going on. How where do you find the time for all of these things, right? Because that was 4 of the sports, right? And yeah, there's things that are interconnected. I'm sure certain aspects get pulled over between, right? 2 win, 2 right, and then we're talking about how you're doing big wave now. You've won some events. You rode the biggest wave of 2021, 22, if I'm not mistaken, you said earlier. Where do you find the time to learn, not just learn, but become really, really good at all of these? And I'm sure there's stuff you haven't told me about, right? Where do you
Yeah.
find the time to do all these things and become good at them? Because most people would be grateful to be good at one thing. I would be the happiest person on earth if I won one event in podcasting, right? Like just one event. Give me one, I'll be happy. But no, you're going out there winning 15, 20, 25, however many it is at this point. Where do you, I don't want to say find the time, because we all have to find the time, but where do you find the
You
drive? Where do you
make
find,
you make
yeah,
the
I completely agree. I mean, you're in your sleep, right? You're working in your sleep. I think that's important. But how did you do all this, man? Because this is
Oh, it
absolutely incredible.
happens. It happens naturally in many ways as well. And my coaches have always hated it. Every coach I've ever had in my life has always told me, Zane, just shortboard surf. You'll be world champion. You have potential to be the best. Just put down the windsurfer for a little bit and focus on that. And I appreciate it, and I understand why. And yes, for people listening and for aspiring athletes, do what you want to be best at every damn day. Do it as much as you can. Do it efficiently. Do it effectively. But don't let learning something else take you away from the opportunity it might have to synchronize with your focus, right? Um, Now, imagine you're a basketball player and you have this magical arena, a magical court that every day it changes to something different. One day it's a volleyball court. One day it's a basketball field or baseball field. Another day it's a basketball court, you know? And what are you going to do? Are you going to spend one day out of 7 training just because that's the only day that gives you basketball opportunity? Or are you going to stay busy, or work your cardio, work your mental, work your competition in different aspect, right? And that's what I've always been attracted to in the ocean. Every single day is different. And every day there's an opportunity for a best day yet. Every day there's something great happening out there. You just got to know how to handle it. You got to know how to adapt with these ever changing conditions. Yes, you have to commit the time and the effort and the resources to become confident and proficient with them, to truly play with it and have fun with it and push yourself in it. But I think I give a lot of, not that I think, I know I give a lot of credit to my fortunate position growing up in a place like Maui, and a place with world champion watermen and water women surrounding me in my community, and being surrounded by greats. It's going to rub off on you, as long as you are making an effort to surround yourself with them, right? And I always just idolized all these athletes in my community, and I'd be hanging out with adults as a young teenager. I would always, even to this day, I hang out with guys way older than me than I do my own age. Why? Because most kids my age are wasting their time partying and working all week, spending it in the bar. And I'd rather be hanging with the guy who's running a business, surfing every day, sun before sun up, and learning from him, talking with him on the water, working with other competitors of mine, other teammates. And so that's how I've uh, had the opportunity to do that, right? My uncles and my aunties have had these different crafts. And don't get me wrong, some people might be listening in this and be like, dude, I'm not rich. I can't afford a surfboard, a canoe, a windsurfer, a wing foil, blah, 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 blah. I didn't have any of that stuff of my own when I was learning. I just sampled other people's stuff. They were cool enough to let me try. Like, hey, well, uncle, I like sample. Can I try your canoe? Can I go paddle? And they'll let me go paddle, and you just take on things little by little. And of course, I had a head start because my parents had me at the beach and in the water before I could even walk. They had me on their surfboard and on their windsurfer before I could walk. And so this is something that I've always, before I even can recollect life, have been around and maybe attracted to. But it doesn't mean that you can't have that same feeling that I feel right now. Just talking about it, I'm like all psyched, I'm getting excited, I'm looking out to the ocean right now and the wind blowing through the Pailolo Channel. And I'm thinking, after this podcast, I'm fired up to go out there and throw some flips. We might not have big waves right now, but we got strong wind.
There you go. Yeah. And as you said, kind of be able to take advantage. You're taking advantage of the situation, which is always something that's extremely important. And it sounds like you learned that from a lot smarter people than, than you potentially could have if you just sat there by yourself. Right.
My mom would be listening right now, really mad at me if I didn't say that's from her, because my mom has always been one to tell me about jumping through windows of opportunity. And oftentimes those windows of opportunity are limited, and you can't stop to think about it for too long often. She taught me in many ways to be a yes man. I didn't know what that term was growing up. I do now. And now I'm learning to say no to some things. But as a young kid, saying yes to all those different experiences and opportunities and jumping through those windows of opportunity, it allowed me to have a lot of different paths to follow, right? It might not be season for surfing, but I could be staying busy and competing during the wind season and still feel fit, strong, and in touch with the natural environment of the ocean when surf season starts again. And so didn't mean to interrupt you there, but my mom, no. she's a national champion windsurfer herself, but when it comes to attitude and just heart of aloha, she's fierce, man. And she's definitely left that enthusiasm with me for sure.
I love that, man. Yeah, I mean, it's important for people to understand, right? Like, are you just gonna, well, what are you gonna do? Sit at home on your hands, or are you just gonna take advantage of what as you said, that nature is giving you, that the environment is saying, like, hey, you can't surf today, but if you want to go kite surfing, like, here, this is a great day for kite surfing. Are you just gonna be like, I guess I can't surf today, or are you, as you're gonna say, you're gonna take advantage, you're gonna get out there and you're gonna do your thing? I think that's awesome, man. I think that's awesome. And one other thing I want to just point out, you're learning from all these other people. You're taking upon their wisdom. They've lived longer than you have, right?
Oh, yeah.
And they've learned a lot, and they can impart that wisdom on you. One quote that I really love: "You're the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with." You're spending a lot of time with a lot of smart people. You're most likely going to get a little bit smarter, right? That's just the way, osmosis and those types of things work. And it sounds like you've been taking advantage of that for a long time. And now, no shame to the people that are out at the bars having a good time.
Heck yeah.
Love
Have
it.
fun.
I do that. Like, I mean, not too
I
often.
do it too. All in balance. All in balance.
Yes, exactly. In balance. I think that's the important part. Zane, this is great, man. I still have so many things I want to ask you about. So I think we're gonna have to kind of move on to a couple of the other
Let's
things.
do
But
it. I
so
talk too much. So let's
no,
speed
dude.
fire.
No. I don't want to do that. I don't want to take up too much of your time, because I realize you're looking out at the ocean. I was like, he's probably looking at the ocean right now. So that's what you've been doing. So I want to get you out there, but I do have some important questions, because I think they're very important to you more than they are to anybody else. That's why I want to get to them. And right. So we're talking about how you have all these different things that you're doing in terms of in the water, actual sports that you do, maybe not in the water at all, just sports in general. But you're also doing many other things, right? You're an author, you're a speaker, you're an environmentalist, you have a foundation, right? So just one sport is a lot for, most people. Now you're talking about 4, 5, 6, 7 sports. Now that's an insane amount for everybody else. And now you're
Yeah.
talking about, well, you're also an entrepreneur. You have a business on the side. You're working with sponsors. You're doing all these other things. Where does this energy come from, man? And like, I agree with you. You make your own time, but like, do you have like 26 hours in the day? Like, I'm curious, and where you're finding these 2 extra
Easier
hours.
through trial and error. It's gotten easier. I've always been one to take on too much. And if there's one emotion that's a negative that I experience, it's being overwhelmed. And that's because I've taken on so much. But in many ways, I'm grateful I've put the hammer down for a decade to do so, because now I have everything set and in place. My parents, once again, were very influential in those decisions. When it comes to property management here in Hawaii, when it comes to starting our surf school, when it comes to starting our foundation, introducing kids to ocean conservation through sport. In many ways, those were reflections of my ohana, of my family, and the lessons they instilled, on me through their actions. So for them to guide me in the right way along my success through sport was critical. you know um my parents were professional athletes, and so they also had trial and error, and all their friends went through trial and error when they came across money and when they lost money. And so I think that was important, is when I did have money, when I was winning contests, I bought my own car when I was 15 from a modeling gig. I bought my own house at how old was I? 23, I think. And that was after a few big competitive wins. And if I wouldn't have known better, I would have got another truck that was a little nicer, a little more lifted, a nicer sounds. But my parents like, hey, you got that money, you could afford this. Believe it or not, take advantage of the system,
Yep.
learn the system. And then okay, here's another thing to learn about. you know, and so, but you learn to get to where you want to be, and once you have that house or whatever, then you can move on to the next thing. And yeah, let's move on. I'm getting it carried away here.
No, dude, you're doing great. That's why I love doing this. My favorite thing is to have a good conversation with someone who's extremely passionate about something. And you're extremely passionate about a lot of things. So I'm enjoying every single second of this. I promise you that. I think
The
it's
foundation, though, one thing I'll leave with is that the Inzane Supergroms started off as something that I would go to a competition as a teenager. Literally, I'd be 15, 16 years old, going to a world tour in Asia and Europe, and I would come with a backpack filled with coloring crayons and books and board bags with extra surfboards. And my mom, once again, would encourage me, hey, when you get there, make sure to give this to other kids. She would give me things to give to other kids, and I would also want to take kids out in the water. And after 10 years of doing this, it started off an unofficial foundation and unofficial not-for-profit. And through COVID, with extra time, I learned about that. We have an official 501c3 now, and our name is the Kakukahi Supergroms. And that really is a reflection of my fortune. I realize that I'm in a fortunate position to have had positive influence, to have had access to these resources, in this case, different crafts. And I want to give kids the same opportunity of mentorship that I had growing up, whether it's here in the islands of Hawaii or whether it's abroad on my travels. And so it really charges me spiritually with that energy I need to do better in competition, knowing that what I'm doing is truly pono, or balanced and righteous. Knowing that I'm not just following a path of a selfish athlete or entrepreneur, because it's easy to get caught up in your own shit sometimes. Excuse my
mm-hmm.
language. And especially for an athlete, if you're a family member of a professional athlete, and it's a selfish lifestyle, and the athlete, the professional makes that choice every day to put time to themselves, to their craft, to what it takes to be the best. And it often means time away from the family, time away from responsibilities. And so, you know, I want to be able to give that same opportunity to kids on my travels, and it makes me feel right. It makes me feel more balanced when I am competing and when I am training.
It's helping you, it's helping the environment, right? It's helping,
Yeah,
fulfill what you are clearly looking for is to help other people. You're helping the environment. These kids are learning, right? There's so many good things about something like this. So kudos and congratulations on the 501c3 status. That is absolutely fantastic. So is there anywhere can we donate? Is there anywhere we can help out, send things in? Is there a website I could check that out at?
yes, of course. You can check out Kahaku Kahi, and that's Kaha Kaha Kukaha, or sorry, all Kukahi Kukahi Kukahi.
All right.
Uh,
I'll listen
so
back to that and I'll put the website in the show notes. How's that
yeah,
sound?
we'll include the link Kahaku Kahi Foundation, and please check it out for sure.
100%. And the last thing I want to talk about, so you and I, we do have one thing in common outside of loving the beach. We're both authors, which is kind of cool.
Yeah,
Which is kind of cool. I had a little bit of time during the pandemic, so I wrote a book, which was a lot of fun. But I want to
congrats.
talk about your book here for a
Awesome.
couple minutes before we get out of here. Beneath the surface, it's a lot of the stories, a lot of the lessons that you learned. Oh, nice, we got it. For anyone watching, we have it right there. Very excited to grab my copy one of these days. I'm almost finished with the book I'm currently reading, so I'm going to need that soon. But tell me about like where does the idea to write this book? I know you're an avid journaler, right? So you've been writing many things down, I'm sure, for many many moons, and you're taking all these stories and these lessons. And at what point did you say, I have something here that helps me, but again, I want to help other people. I want to put this information out into the world. It's no fun if it's just in my on my laptop or in my journal and next to my bedside table. Where was the idea to actually turn many of these stories and the things that you've learned along the way into a book and to put that out into the world?
Once again, it was a reflection of family values. Growing up as a young professional athlete, I was allowed by my family to um, do online schooling and pursue world tour at a very young age. I was 14, 15 years old joining the junior world tour. And one of the things that stuck with me since then, more than even sport or time on the water, is journaling, because I've journaled every day pretty much. And it's a practice that my grandmother gave me. She said, one day you'll be old like us and it'll be harder to recall your adventures. And so write down your experiences with the world and its people, and they'll never be forgotten. And it was a simple practice that I never really thought too much of. I always had fun with it, writing down, new languages I'm practicing in foreign countries, writing down experiences, what I learned in competition, manifesting how I want to do in competition. And so visualization is a big part of my journaling as well. And when my grandmother Carolyn was getting sick and she was on hospice at our home, as a last family project together, she made me promise to share my experiences with the world. And together we went through all my journals and we started circling pages that were exciting, and stories that we thought could be valuable to the reader. And so it was a really cool family project with my grandma Carolyn. And it wouldn't have happened if it wasn't for the practice that my family left with me, to have all those experiences already there in a sense. I just had to recategorize it and shuffle it around and make it neat. And yes, that was hard, and it was a team effort through my auntie, my mom, my grandma. All the women in my family were very influential in the book, and they helped me with that process, publishing it on my own with Zaniac Publishing. And I never would have thought I'd be a published author. It's just another gift that my grandma left with me, you know, um, and it's opened once again so many windows of opportunity, and at that, ones that are very rewarding, to hear from somebody that they read your book and that it inspired them to innovate what they love most, or to whatever. And it's cool. And I definitely know that this book will hopefully be something my kids and grandkids will maybe enjoy too. And so to know that it's forever there is pretty neat. It's also very overwhelming, and to know that all those spelling errors that are potentially there are there to live forever. Um,
It's
but
better that way, man.
there's a lot of handwritten stuff in here actually. you know um Here's me when I was 3 years old as a young kid on my surfboard.
Love it. Look at you,
you know
man.
and stories that are handwritten, we just threw right into the book, printed, so you could see my handwriting as a young teenager and how bad it was.
That's
And
awesome. But that brings out so much more character, right? They're just not words printed on a page. That is your feelings at that time written down, right? And I think that's incredible. And hearing you talk about this, first off, the project is amazing. The reason behind the project is even cooler, and obviously the connection you can hear in your voice to what your grandmother left with you, and that this last opportunity is very clearly very very important to you, which I think is awesome, right? I like those feelings, right? It's nice to feel human, right? It's nice to
yeah,
actually remember some of those things, whether, happy, sad, whatever they are, but just the
yeah,
opportunity that your grandmother was.
vulnerability is
Yes,
freaking challenging, man. that was,
absolutely.
that was one of the hardest parts about this book. Like, I
That
mean,
as well, yeah.
just being open enough to share things that most people and myself even really overthink. Like, man, am I really gonna put this out there? People are gonna tease me about it. It's like, come on, like, am I really that soft? But yeah, that's me sometimes. And I'm also this freaking hard. You could see it here, and so vulnerability was one of the hardest parts, regardless of traveling 8 to 10 months out of the year. Um, During that time, the few years that until the book was finished, it was actually pretty short. I think it was about a year, little over a year. And during that time, I was home and for a few days out of the month, and gone most of the month, and writing late at night before competition, and competing, and then on the airplane home, just writing the whole time, typing. And so, regardless of the time spent, I'd say more challenging is that vulnerability, and continues to be that vulnerability. It's there forever,
Hmm.
but in many ways, I just could let it go, let it live, and be proud of my family values and experiences, our culture here in the islands that is available to the reader. And yeah, it's fun. I can't wait to check out your book too, Michael.
Thank you. I'll make sure to send you one, dude.
Yeah.
That's an easy one. No, I think it's important, right? Because you're putting all those stories out there, and yeah, the vulnerability is there for you. But I'm sure, and without a shadow of a doubt, that the feedback that you've gotten, that what you have heard from people who have read the book, to the impact that you've had on others, significantly outweighs whatever vulnerability that you were feeling when you put it out, or you are currently still feeling. Am I right to say something like that?
Yeah. Yeah.
I
I
think
think
so.
it's relative. Everyone has those moments, and when someone could see, oh wow, they feel that too. They feel more connected with them.
100%, man. 100%. I think that's so important. And I know we're kind of. I mean, we're not over time because you didn't give me a hard stop. So I have one last
No,
question,
I'm honored to be a part of this and talk with
buddy.
your viewers, you guys. Thank
You're
you so much for having me. Yeah.
you are the master of the ocean. I am extremely grateful that you're here for me. That's one thing I will say. The last thing I do want to talk about a little bit, and again, you have so many different things that you're working on professionally, personally, philanthropic outputs that you're doing. You have a number of sponsors, some of which are very well-known companies, right? I saw Maui Gym on your website. Like, who doesn't love a nice pair of Maui Gym
Oh
sunglasses,
yeah.
right? Um, how do you come about these partnerships? How do you find the partners that
Mhm.
I'm sure there's a lot of people that reached out, is like, dude, you promote our product, we'll give you money. It's like, okay, that's cool, but like, you clearly don't know me that well, because the money is obviously necessary, but that's not why I do this. So how do you go about finding those partners that not only think that you're great, and that you think that they're great, but can align with more things, such as helping the environment, such as helping your foundation, such as sharing stories, family values? How do you find these partners, and how do you create these partnerships that push both of you forward in the way that you're looking to go?
Well, once again, I think it's about balance. You're always going to have someone dangling a carrot in front of you for the right or wrong reasons, and you have to weigh it out and to ask yourself, is it worth it? And I think for me, I always live by the motto of, you know, my success is only going to help me to build this platform. And, you know, at the end of the day, you know, excuse me. At the end of the day, when we start to think about, you know, success and what it is an accumulation of, I think that, you know, we have to be proud of what we've done, right? We have to be proud of what we've done, right? But when I really look at success, I want to know that it's uplifted my community and environment. And so if I'm going to work with a company and a partner, I want to know and balance out what are they doing to uplift their community, and our environment. And I think that's the main question I ask. Like, you hear, is the ethos in synchrony? Is the ethos in sync? Do we have similar ethos? And that's definitely a term that is more direct to that. But when I think of my success and my daily footprint and my every action, that definitely has a reaction with everything around me. Is it toppling over and creating a negative effect for my community environment? Or is it truly uplifting my environment and community? And so, working with companies that not only I'm very grateful for their support, for a great product, and for support to help me keep this lifestyle and my dreams alive. And this relentless pursuit of dreams is not stopping. So I definitely look for companies that I could work with long term and share value with as well. I like to know that I'm not just putting a sticker and a logo on something, that I'm a part of something, that I'm a part of, its growth, that I'm of value to this team, and so I've made choices in the past to work with people that are offering less money, or that are, simply for the reason that they have better cause and effect for the environment and the community. And also, maybe I can have more of an influence on the company. I really want to be a part of something and share that value and know that I'm not just taking, right? And so, companies like Starboard, my main sponsor since I was 13 years old, 12 years old, they really helped me to further secure this mindset, because they're not only my first sponsor, but they're the largest production board company in the world. And so their footprint is huge on an industry that is toxic. When we talk about surfboards, it's made of styrofoam and all these chemical resins. They're not good for the workers. They're not good for the environment. Sven Rasmussen, the owner of Starboard, felt this guilt from starting the world's largest production board company. And he made a change. Aside from all how busy he was running this business and multiple others, and how much resources it was going to commit to and take, he made the commitment to create a business that is uplifting the environment, right, and the community. And how did he do that? It was a long process, but to this day, I'm proud to say that I'm 25 times ocean positive. And that's from work that Sven has inspired. He calculates every teammate, including myself, every employee, and the entire business's footprint by energy consumption, miles traveled, etc. And we plant X amount of mangrove trees in the country of Myanmar, one of the greatest, most secure restoration areas in the world, especially for mangroves, which is the leading tree for carbon sequestration, meaning it sucks CO2 out of the atmosphere and ocean. So 1 mangrove equals 1 ton of CO2 sequestered from our environment, removed from our environment. And so, in a sense, we've planted a lot of mangrove trees in my name, in Starboard's name, in all the athletes' name. And, that's just, a small thing. With every product sold, whether it's my pro model board that I helped to design, we plant a mangrove tree. And we also remove 1 kilogram of plastic from the ocean and from the beaches. And so, just those little things, like I'm proud to tell people, hey, buy this board. Not only is it something that I built, but it's something that we went out of our way to find an alternative material that outperforms, that's more durable, but also healthy for the worker and healthy for the environment. Or should I say, much better for the worker and the environment, right? We're using bioglass, we're using blue carbon, we're using recycled end grain balsa instead of materials like plastic, PVC, and single purpose non compostable resins. And so, that makes me more proud to be a part of this company, to fight for a good result, to sell my boards, and I've also reflected that in my own businesses and my own lifestyle as well, making sure that, we can take ownership and be truly accountable for our footprint. And I don't want to say footprint literally like carbon footprint, but yeah, that as well.
Yeah, I think you say these are little things, but these sound like pretty big things, right? And maybe one at a time is on a smaller scale, but when you add all these things up together, as you said, you've planted a lot of mangrove trees, which means you've
Mm.
taken a lot of tons of carbon out of the ocean, out of the environment, which is obviously a necessity at this point. So I think that's absolutely incredible, man, and I'm very grateful for that story just by itself because it really does show how athletes have they're the original, I hate the word, but the original influencers, right? You're the
Mm.
first people that could really influence actually influence other people to do things. And not only are you influencing people, you're influencing the companies, you're influencing the
The
people of the
industry, the
community, the
entire
industry.
entire
Exactly. To make things better, not for yourself, not
yeah.
for the company, not for the bottom line, but for literally everyone as a whole, which I think is just extremely fantastic. And it really speaks to this entire hour-long conversation we've had on who you are and what you're trying to do and how you're succeeding in so many different things in so many different ways.
Thank you, Michael. And I get chicken skin hearing that compliment because it really is one of the things I'm most proud of. Being able to reflect our actions upon our entire industry, our entire global community. Since we started that initiative with Starboard, with the EcoBoard project and Sustain Surf, now almost every single world champion in surfing, windsurfing, hydrofoiling, kite surfing are riding certified EcoBoards with materials that we discovered at Starboard, that we went out of our way to experiment with, to test, to find, and in many ways you think of coming full circle. If there's one last thing I could leave with everybody, right? It's we didn't talk about this, but it's another thing. My grandfather invented windsurfing. He was the creator of windsurfing.
Invented.
He invented windsurfing. He was the first
Right.
person to put a sail on a board and create a sport out of it, brought it to the Olympics, started the first magazines. So when he was making windsurfing, the boards started off as wood. And then eventually his college friend actually started Clark Foam. Clark Foam, so these two buddies really revolutionized the world of water sports as we know it. Clark Foam is the material that replaced wood. So that's when windsurf boards went from wood to a light material that allows for innovation, performance, maneuverability, was light, still durable, etc. But it's toxic, terribly toxic. That material has been the same for decades. It hasn't changed. That process, which started in the 70s, like 60s, it hasn't changed. The shapes, the designs have changed, but you hear why reinvent the wheel if it works, right? Well, we took that risk to do so, and it worked. It worked better. And now not only is it something that's better for our environment, but professionals know it to be better, right? And so I'm super proud to do that. And I think for everyone out there, whatever you're doing in your life and your business, know that, every action has a reaction, and in your work, no matter what it is, it can change the attitude of your office. It could change the attitude of your business, your community, and keep that conscious clear. Keep that attitude of gratitude, and uplift your community environment along the way. And
I
I'm
love it,
super
man.
stoked to talk with you guys today, and hope that there's another chance for you guys to learn more about me, whether it's through the book or through my social media. I'm pretty active on Instagram and
Yeah.
Facebook.
Let us know all that. Let us know the website, the social medias. Give us all that stuff.
Yeah, Zaniac1, like Maniac, but with the Z. Zaniac1 is my Instagram. Post pretty much daily on there. Facebook, Zane Kekoa Schweitzer, same as my name on the screen here. And as well, trying to get active on TikTok, keeping my YouTube alive. I
There
put
you go.
YouTube videos up for sure, at least quarterly. Some good bangers in there if you want to see some nice action. And yeah, man. Also, one last invitation to my life and the insane world of mine is to come have fun with us here on Maui. My family and I run Maui Sports Adventures, where we do private lessons and charters in the ocean. We could get you guys surfing, stand-up paddling, hydrofoiling, big wave surfing.
I
Yeah, so
promise you, if I
look us
come,
up.
when I come out there, I'm gonna hit you up, and I cannot wait.
Michael, I know it because I share the same invitation on my travels around the world. And guess what? Eventually they come knocking. Hey, remember that one time in Italy you invited me to come and stay at your house? Well, we're here.
Oh, I'm gonna show up with my copy of the book too. I'm gonna get you to sign it. How's that sound?
Yeah, that'd be great. I'll do the same. I'll do the same for you too. Send me your address. We'll get you a signed copy over.
Love it, brother. I appreciate that. Zane, this has been absolutely incredible. Very thought provoking, very passionate. Again, my favorite thing is to listen to people who are passionate about something. That's literally why I started this podcast. And this is the exact reason why I love doing it. So sincerely, sincerely appreciate it. I appreciate your time. I appreciate everyone's time that is listening. It's the only thing we don't get more of. So I really do appreciate you giving me some of yours, man, and everyone out there listening. One more time, Zane Kekoa Schweitzer. I got the name right this time, I'm pretty sure. Make sure I'll have all the links, all the show notes. Everything is going to be in the show notes on YouTube, on the podcast. So make sure to check everything out there. But other than that, I really appreciate everybody. Thank you.
Right on. Aloha.